Hey, what's up, everybody? We are at the same exact range we were 3 years ago, exactly when I started this YouTube channel. The first videos were coming in right there when Theta was about 60 to 65 cents. And what we were talking about is basically getting a retrace. You could see we had our run up, we had our bear market. And when we were down here, those first videos, we were looking for a retrace and we got a three-wave move, and it was technically a retrace. However, it wasn't completely met. You know, if you look at this as your the pinnacle of retraces, which is like around the 618, 786, you could see we came up to it, but we came up a little short, right? And looking back and looking at where we're at right now, it makes sense that this is just not the retrace, because now we can see three waves, right? You could say three waves up, three waves down, and now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves up, or three, giving us the retrace we wanted back here 3 years ago in October of 20, what year was that? 2023. So 2023 in October, Q4, we were very bullish, right? Now, Q4s aren't always bullish, but a lot of times they are bullish. It really depends where you are exactly in the cycle. If Q4 is going to just be like a little bit of a bounce, because even in a bear market, if you look at, for example, if you're breaking it up in cycles, right? Q4 back over here was essentially, all of this as we know. But, and you could say, well, what about the following Q4? The following Q4, we were basically near the bottom, right? So if you go here, October, and then we go all the way up to January, so that was our Q4. So we have a Q4 there, we have a Q4 there, and where else do we have a Q4 at? Well, we have one right here, which is very bullish. Very bullish. So that will go up right about there. And yeah, so right there. So, and then the next Q4 would be right here, which is also very, very bullish. So of one Q4 where we got a little bit of a pump, but we returned back. Okay. The second Q4, we basically bottomed out, kind of a little bit bullish, right? The third Q4 was actually very bullish, very bullish. And then the previous Q4 was also very, very bullish. So, over the last 1, 2, 3, 4 Q4s, over the last 4 years, all of the Q4s have gotten some kind of a bounce or bottoming process or breakout. So that's good, right? And why is that? Because the stock market is correlated to the stock market, and usually Q4 in stocks, you get different earnings, you get the Halloween effect. Google the market Halloween effect. Google Santa Claus rally. It's just, when we hit the holidays, October, November, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that stuff, people feel extra juicy. They feel extra risky and frisky and whatever, right? So people invest more money and people buy more, right? Because it's the holidays. The economy gets a little spurts, right? And it's reflected in the stock market. So, and it's the first Q4 of the first of this first presidency. I don't know what that means exactly, but I thought that was interesting. So if we go back further than that, so we looked at 2021 Q4. So Q4 of 2020 was very, very bullish. This was the beginning, guys. October was the beginning. Oh my God, was the beginning of this massive run here. So there you go. We just looked at a bunch of Q4s. Let's keep looking here. Why not? If we go back to 2019, Now, this was a terrible Q4 here, but was it all terrible? No, not really, because if you look, we actually had, because remember, we just had a massive pump here, right? And we're flagging out. This is a corrective structure, but still inside the corrective structure, you had these pretty big rallies right in here. Both of those rallies occurred in Q4, and you could say, oh, that's ridiculous. But if you look, that was a 60% move in Bitcoin, right? So very notable. Now, inside of a bear market, though, Q4s can be absolutely horrendous. Just look back over here. And so that was October to December. So basically all of this right here was Q4, which is probably the most horrendous capitulation that I've ever went through. But, remember, we were in the height of the bear market. But what happened, guys? What happened right when we hit Q1? Because remember, Q1 is also very bullish because we have spring. Spring is very bullish historically. What happened in Q1? Well, would you look at that? That was a massive explosion, right? So then if we go back to Q4 of 2018, 2017, I mean, you don't need any introduction. I mean, this was probably the pinnacle of what bullish is back then. It was absolutely insane. I lived through that, and I didn't have a lot of money invested because I just barely started. In September of 2017 or right around there, I barely just started. And by the time December came, I had a little bit of money in it, but it wasn't like life-changing. So, but I was still very exciting, right? So, man, only if we could have got into crypto, back in 2015, 2016, I know probably maybe some of you have, but if we would have gotten back in over there, wow, we wouldn't have, you don't even need altcoins, right? You just need Bitcoin, basically. I mean, if I was invested all through here, I probably would be somewhat of a Bitcoin maxi because why do I need altcoins? I mean, I got it less than, $300, $400, $500. So you probably have a whole grip of them, and you wouldn't really need altcoins. But us guys that are a little bit late to the party, we need some altcoin flavor because that's exactly how we're going to get ahead of the game. But it's more risky and it's more tricky. However, if you pick the right coins, like for example, we got the beloved XRP, that's totally blew away Bitcoin by a lot, right? I think would be all right. And by picking XRP and others, right, like Theta and stuff, I mean, it's been, it's taken some time for Theta. But remember, Theta went on one of the biggest rallies of all time. I mean, look at that. This is absolutely just a massive, I can't remember exactly the percentage. It was a lot. But why are we talking about Q4? Well, there's some, videos circulate around that, Q4 may not be so great because what happened last time. Remember, a lot of coins went on a big rally. They had a big crash. They had a little bit of a retrace, like all of them, while Bitcoin set a slightly higher high, and then it was just a massive dump after that. And that could totally happen, especially where we're at here. I mean, we've already had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 waves. I mean, we've been going up consistently for a long time for Bitcoin. So the altcoins has had plenty of opportunities to blast off, and you can see it's just been pretty much dead. So Bitcoin's like, well, hurry up! I can't hang on anymore. I'm trying to hang on as tight as I can. Hurry up, Theta, and shoot off so we can all go down and relax together, right? I mean, it's kind of like that in a way. So what's up now? Well, here's the big thing. So some of these YouTube, few different people, I'm sure some of the names are talking about the Q4, but here's what they won't say, and I'm just going to use Theta as an example. Every time Theta gets into this yellow zone, it has been basically Q4, right? So we blast it off, right here, and right here was basically October through October, November, December, right in here, right? Basically Q4. So when we were in Q4, what happened? We blasted off like a massive rocket ship. Perfect, perfect. Okay, then we had the bear market, and then what happened to that? There we go. Okay, that was weird. So we had our massive bear market, right? And then what happened? We landed back into the zone. When did we land in the zone? Q4. We were basically back here in the fourth quarter, right? What happened in the fourth quarter? Basically, obviously, the fourth quarter is October, November, December. The first quarter is January, February, March. So, right? So we know that. Well, what happened when we were in Q4 down in the zone, just like over here? We blasted off. Not as massive as this, but we still blasted off in Q4 off of this zone. Okay, well, guess what, guys? 3 years later, we came up, we came back down. This whole thing took a whole year. We had a three-wave pullback, right? Longer than a year. Now we're back in this zone, but not only that, we're building a base. We're building a base. But look at this. We're building a base inside the zone, inside Q4. Ding, 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 ding. What do you think's going to happen? Well, at the very minimum, we should at least get something like this, right? Right? You can see this one's high, this one's lower, this one's lower. What if we got something lower and it was building a descending triangle, something like that? That could be very bearish, but at least it could give us a little bit of alleviation during Q4 if it was going to be, if we could assume the argument is that we're going into a bear market. If we are going into a bear market, and Bitcoin, we're going to go into another 2-3 year bear market for these cryptos, then I would assume it's not going to just happen overnight. It's going to take time, and then eventually kerplunk, right? Now, if it does it here, that's even better because then we can get it over with, right? Because if we're going to go into a bear market, let's just get it over with now. And here's the thing. We've been in a bear market. Bitcoin is not in a bear market. XRP is still kind of in price. It hasn't even really gotten into price discovery yet, right? So its last bull run was all the way in January of 2018. So Theta hasn't been in has been in a bear market this entire time, all of 21, all of 22, all of 23, all of 24, all of 25, right? That's 5 years, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Going on 5 years of being in a bear market. So if Bitcoin's about to enter a bear market, well, what does that mean for Theta? Does that mean Theta has to go into another 4-year bear market and be in basically an 8-year bear market, kind of like XRP? I mean, it's possible because we've seen XRP, take that long, but I don't think it's going to take that long because we're much further along. We have a different administration. We're getting regulation. We still have ammunition. We're getting the ETFs, right? Even if we got an XRP ETF tomorrow, it's going to blow up the whole market. All the coins are going to have some sort of reaction, right? Because it's an altcoin. It's a real authentic altcoin that has gotten ETF approval, which is a big deal. Plus, we had a little bit of a regulation in the beginning of the year. We're supposed to get some again at the end. We'll see. And that's probably what's going on too. Is this government shutdown crap could be delaying it. Well, maybe we're unsure. We're not sure if we're going to get it now because the government's. But I think this is all negotiating tactics. I think once they get a deal, once everything gets going, I think we'll be closer to another piece of legislation for digital assets because it's all about ammunition. It's all about giving investors something to look forward to. If there's nothing to look forward to, then why are we investing? It makes no sense. We have to look forward. So why do I invest in XRP? Because I have something to look forward to. For example, the ETF. More Ripple partnerships, Ripple growing as a company. people using the XRP ledger, the Ripple stablecoin, the Ripple IPO, right? Eventually, they're gonna take their company public. So I'm waiting for a lot of stuff, right? I mean, I'm also waiting for Ripple's escrow to be basically gone and all the circulating supply to be out. So there's things to look forward to. That's what keeps us going. That's what keeps us hungry. Now, if you're an investor in Amazon, what is there to look forward to? More Amazon sales, I guess. Christmas sales, holiday sales, Black Friday. I mean, I guess, but Amazon's gone up basically the last 2 decades massively. So you're not going to get a lot out of it. I mean, that's why we love crypto, because it's so volatile. It's basically the wild, wild west, right? And so there's not a big meat and potatoes to keep the price sustained. That's why you have these crazy volatile moves. But these volatile moves will be life changing, right? You just have to know. You just have to know that it eventually will be your turn. It'll eventually be your turn. And I think we have a very good possibility, because remember, I've been talking about this long before I've been talking about Q4, which is what? Which is the main idea, which is what? Which is we have a base, we have a 5-wave move, we have a bear market back to the Q4, right? And we also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And let's say we get 1, 2, 3 again, or 5, it'll be a B wave. So let's say we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 3. It could be also 3. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us a 3-wave move. It's going to give us our B. That's exactly what we need. We need a B wave, right? And I could totally see this in a fast and furious Q4, especially as we're going into, the spring months, So once we get up here, if we get up here, it doesn't mean we're going into price discovery, but that still means we could get at least a 5 to 10x, right? Now, the bare minimum, we need to hit this right here. That's what I've been saying for a long time, is I believe we can hit that. That's still a big move. That's 300-400%. It's not life-changing at all, but it's still something to get us to bounce, right? Let's get a bounce out of here. So the big question is, right, can we get past this major area right here, right? If we could get past, and I'm just using theta, you go, oh, well, theta, whatever. No, I'm using theta as an example, not just for theta, but for all. If I'm referencing theta in this way, I'm really talking about basically a lot of the other coins, right? A lot of the other coins like SHIB are in the same category. AVAX, same category. ICP, same category. I mean, there's a lot of them that are in this type of category. Where they're at the lower part of the range, right? If you look at this as the top part of the range, you could see there's just nothing but empty space up here. Like it's begging to be, hit, right? So if we could break above this line, right, we can then get up to there. But that doesn't mean we're going into a bull market, right? A bull market starts when you actually go into price discovery, which is anywhere above that level. So if we could break above that level, which I don't believe, because remember, if we're coming from right here and we go all the way up, we're going to lose a lot of momentum. So a lot of times that's why we have to go into reaccumulation so that it can basically, get going here, because then you would have a rise, a crash, a retrace, right? There's your retrace. And then you kind of go down into a reaccumulation, and then you kind of kerplunk, kind of go sideways, and then go. So that would be exactly how I would believe that would happen. And that would take a long time still, right? I mean, what I've had drawn there, hopefully it doesn't take that long, but that you're looking at 2028. So that's still 3 years, I would say, 2 to 3 years down the line. But look how fast we could get up here. We could get up here very, very, very fast. Look how fast it took us to get from here up to there. I mean, it literally took 130 days, which I thought it was less than that. But there you go, 130 days. So 130 days from where we're at right this second, you know, you're looking at around February. So October, November, December, January, February, right? So it's not that far away, and you could be looking down the barrel at a $8 to $13 theta, which I don't know. I mean, it's a tough one because I'm not comfortable saying that unless we could break above this. If we could break above that, I will be more than obliged. But what's the main idea? What do I believe? I believe we will get to this level. I believe that this is a 3-wave move. We have 5 waves in wave C, right? And we have divergence. We have like an impulse. We have a 3-wave pullback. We also have, you know, Wyckoff accumulation, which basically is right here. So you could see, we showed this yesterday, but I mean, just pause the video and just look at that just for a second. I mean, it's unbelievable, right? So you have a move down, 3, move down, 3, come down, hit the low, break the low, break the low, come back up without breaking the high. Boom, same thing here, right? Then you have you come down, then you go in your little creek, right? And then you play around in there, and then slam down, and look at the example. What happens? It's a spring, and then we explode up. Well, guess what? We're in Q4 now, so it just makes total sense. So it would be exactly a 3-wave move down, and that would be exactly, you know, the bearish idea, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be wave C, right? 3, that would be B, and then that would be A, right? And it would look like a perfect ABC. I mean, look at this. So you have a base, you have an impulse to the upside, you have an A, B, and a C, and this Q4 is not going to be bullish. It's going to be very bearish, and we're going to break down, and it's basically going to be like a 2021 situation, or, you know, something like that. And then once we're finished, let's see, where would that get us to? Maybe spring, like somewhere in March, or even summer, right? Because again, summer is usually very bearish. So yeah, it would be an impulse and a 3-way pullback, and then we would probably go sideways for the summer, and then probably Q3 and Q4 of next year, that's when we would get the big blast off. So those are the 2 main ideas. So you can say, oh yeah, one's up, one's down. No, both of them are up, but one of them takes a little bit longer, right? The other one is not so direct, right? Because what is the goal? The goal is to break above this high. Well, how could we break above that high as fast as possible? We would break down, go sideways, then go up. If we go up now, we would still have to it would still open the door for reaccumulation, and we would have to go sideways, like rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, then breakout. And that breakout could be longer than this A, B, C, and then we break out. So the pink one is more bearish short term, but more it'll be faster, you know, over the long run, as far as getting to the promised land, right? So to summarize, basically, we just have to wait for this to play out, right? So this down here, everyone wants to know about the short term. Well, the short term might not be finished yet. this still could be like 1, 2, 3, and we could still kind of come down, right, and break the low and get a spring because we still haven't had a liquidity grab us, you know. So there's two schematics. One schematic could be like this, where we kind of round out and then go. The other schematic could be like this, where you kind of have a spring and then you go like that. So those are the two differences. Do we get the spring phase, or do we get this kind of a base sort of creek phase? I don't know. We'll have to see. But basically, if we did get the spring, it'd give us some divergence. It'd give us a liquidity grab, right? And then once we get that, it would be a much more clear picture. Now, what if this thing just starts kind of rolling down, and it's not really a spring? It comes back up, it retests as resistance. Well, then at that point, I would fully be committed to say that this is an ABC. That this is an A, B, and a C. And we're still like halfway there to, you know, we still have a lot more to go down. So hopefully, we could get some bullishness in Q4. So what would be a reason why we would think that we were going to break down with other charts versus what would be a reason that we would think that it's going to go up? Well, let's look at the other charts and let's take a look. First of all, I wanted to show you, this is Ethereum right here, right? And we've looked at this Ethereum chart many times, but basically we have 3 waves down, 3 waves up, 3 waves back down. We have a W, X, Y. It's a running flat, guys. So that's exactly the shape of a running flat. We have an impulse to the upside. We're potentially flagging out, and we're gonna blast off into space, and that's a very bullish sign for Ethereum, right? I don't think, you know, you have one top, you have another top, and then you come up here and another top. I just don't really see it. I think it to me, you have a finished 3-wave move, you have an impulse. So to me, the most likely thing is to break out. You also have a shoulder, a head, and a shoulder, right? You're cupping into the resistance. You're cupping into the resistance. You're cupping into as opposed to cupping down like an M, you're cupping up like a W, right? So what about it, right? What about this chart? Well, if we look at XRP, it could be something very, very similar in that we would still have to come down to that $2 level, giving us this 3-wave move. Because when you look at them side by side, I mean, you know, right? We have 3 waves down, 3 waves up. So if we did get 3 waves down, that means we have more downside to go. That could be the result of a theta spring. Remember, we were talking about theta here, right? So if XRP had to do that, it had to still go down in 3, and it still had this leg to go, then that could be a little bit of a spring phase in here for something like that, which, you know, basically some capitulation. Basically a fake out before a breakout, a scare event, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it for theta. As far as the super small time frames, by the way, the quarterly candle just ended, and it basically ended, you know, just basically down in the zone, so nothing special there. So I don't like this candle really because it doesn't have a big wick on it. I'm always very skeptical. Anytime you get a big pump right when the month starts, I'm very skeptical. That's why I would much, you know, I'm happy that it, look, and today's Thursday, right? And guess what? We're green. I said yesterday very plainly, I said, you know, usually Wednesdays and Thursdays are the most bullish, you know, usually the most volatile days of the week. And when you get a bullish Wednesday, typically you get a little bit more follow through on a Thursday. Now, Friday, you know, it could be sort of a hit and a miss. Sunday for sure, I believe we're gonna have a sell-off on Sunday usually. Well, look at Dog, man. Dog's up 13%. I missed that one. Damn. I was looking at it too yesterday. Let's take a look at Mr. Dog here. Wow. And I was looking at this too, and I was like, this looks like, a really intricate falling wedge, a very sharp falling wedge here. If we look at from a trend line here, let me just put that down. We've completely smashed through that. So that's really cool, right? So you have like an impulse, a three-wave pullback, right? You have an impulse and you have a three-wave pullback inside of a falling wedge. So to me, yes, there are some bearish signs like the MACD crossover that BCB presents, but there's also a lot of bullish signs like this impulse and this little correction, right? We're impulsing to the upside, but we're correcting to the downside. See, this was an impulse to the downside, right? But it was part of a bigger correction. So what do you think is going to happen? Well, to me, it makes sense that we would go up, right? So what this could do is you could have, for example, an impulse. You have three waves down, and then you would get three waves up, and then we would get three waves back down, and then go something like that. And it could be a major three-wave move, right? So, but all in all, this thing should, get going here. It looks very bullish. It looks good. And then also you could see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 waves right there. Do we have divergence? Why does it always go to the top? No, we don't have divergence. Well, that's the 2-day. Let's go like to the 8-hour. No, we don't have it. We don't have any divergence here. But yes, we do. We do have it from here to there, which is even more important. So yeah, it looks great. Damn, I would have gotten that one. That would have been a nice one there. Okay, so let's take a look at XRP today, and look at XRP. And what did we talk about literally yesterday? We literally just talked about this yesterday about us going where? To $3.03. Basically right here. Was it the monthly? Yeah, it was the monthly. Okay, so what did I say? Oh my God. This is we just literally talked about this yesterday, which is what? Which is coming back to this line here. I'm going to have to go and replay that. But at least right here, think that this candle, given its posture right now, would at least get to that $3 level. So that's the big level. So you could see I talked more about it, but you could see, look at that. And the reason I thought that is because why? Because it's the monthly order block. Monthly order blocks are extremely important. You could see this month we hit the order block, right? We pull down, you can see we wick, that we hit it there. So I said if this is going to crash and come down, we at least would have to hit this line first. We would have to hit this line first and then wick off of it and then come down, right? So we're right at the line. So this is it right here, guys. This is the moment of truth. Everyone, they look at, for example, the daily chart. And when you look at the daily chart, it still looks like, well, we have a lot to deal with, right? We have all of this, we have this triangle. So it looks like there's a lot going on, and it looks like it's going to be harder for it to, get going. But when you look at it from the monthly chart, it looks like it's about to rip somebody's face off. Look at the candle. All this candle has to do, guys, is just go like this. Boom. And then it's done. It's over, and nobody can say shit anymore, right? And what I mean that is the bears, right? And I just really think that just based on the monthly chart alone, it looks really bullish, right? Just based on the monthly chart. Now, because the monthly chart, you're looking at candlestick patterns more than structure. But even the structure, look at the structure. You have a cup, you have a base down in here, and you have a cup, And then look at this. You also have another cup right here. So this could be a cup and handle, ladies and gentlemen. And if it is a cup and handle, ladies and gentlemen, what is the measured move of this cup and handle, ladies and gentlemen? Well, let's see, ladies and gentlemen. It is exactly using the wicks, which you probably shouldn't do, but I'm going to be a little bit less conservative today. I mean, you're looking at like $5.50, and we'll do one more for a tighter situation here. That way we can develop a range, because nothing's ever perfect. You're looking at basically like 450 or so. So I'll just take that right there, and then I'll just take that right there, and then I'll just say right here is our zone, basically right there. So, and now we'll zoom out. You don't think it's possible to hit that zone? It's not that far away. You know what I mean? And we're basically right there. So yeah, let's see how it plays out. But essentially, what else could happen, guys, is if this is an A and this is a B, then what that means is B is a trap. It's a trap. It's a trap, right? And we still have to come all the way down for C, and then we can go up. I am not saying that can't happen. I fully believe that is totally possible and even likely. It's even one of my main ideas, right? There's two main ideas, and I talked about them both yesterday. What is the two main ideas? Well, very, very simple. The first one is we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're going to get 5. Very, very simple. This is a 1, 2, 1, 2. We're going to break out. We're going to go in our fifth wave, hopefully up to $1 million. No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully up to at least $8 to $10. That'd be very cool. And we can all go party on some rich guy's yacht. I don't know. Hell no. I would never do that. No, we can all do something we enjoy doing with our, like, you know, buying a house or paying off a house or buying more crypto or swapping or investing or retiring your wife. I don't know, something. Something meaningful. Or we could do this. That's the first idea. The second idea is it would be 1, 2, 3, and this whole thing would be 4, and then we would get 5. So that's really the two ideas. Now, that fifth wave or this flat doesn't have to go down. It could be something like this. It could be something like this. It could be something like this. It could be a running flat, a regular flat, or an expanded flat. Hopefully it's not an expanded flat. Let's just say that. But there you go. That's basically it. And now let's look closer at XRP, because it's starting to look a little bit more attractive, kind of. But we still are we're in a major, like if we were right here Monday or Tuesday, I would be like, okay, well, we still have Wednesday, Thursday left in the tank. But after today, we really only have Friday left. And I don't know how, you know, going over the weekend could cause a lot of damage to this chart, right? Because it's very fragile. Why is it fragile? Because look, if you look at the retraces, we come down, right? We hit the retrace right at the 702. So do it again. We come down. We hit the retrace. Well, would you look at that right at the 702, 786, right? So we crash, we retrace. We crash, we retrace. We crash, we retrace. And I hope to God that this isn't just a retrace, that we can actually break out of here. Let's see where we're at on the retrace level. Drum roll, please. And we are literally, well, would you look at that? We're actually above the 702, so that's good. We actually broke above. Guys, that's really good. On an 8-hour chart, we have 6 hours left. I don't know if we could do it. I mean, we're only a penny away, so I wouldn't get too excited. But basically, we were right there. So if we're going to reject, it's going to be right here, guys. This is the rejection point. I mean, we're literally at $3.04, basically, right? Which means what? Which means that if we can't get through here, then we risk coming back down. And if we come back down, then it's really going to be bad, because then now you're developing this ascending triangle even further. So if this comes down, it's not going to be good. And then we'll probably go flat, and then we'll probably break down. I'm letting you know right now that that will happen if we can't get out of here. So we're basically stuck, in traffic. And if we can't get out of this traffic, the passenger who's shot in the arm is bleeding out, and he's probably not going to make it. So we got to hurry up. That's kind of where we're at here, right? But if we do break down, it's actually not a bad thing, because we still have one more opportunity to get out of here, which is what? Which is our flat that we just talked about, right? So 3 down, 3 up, and then 3 back down, something like that. And then we go up. So if this does come down, then my main idea would be, because it's all about, you could say, oh, well, it's this idea, that idea. Well, no, what it is you're ruling out what it's not. So right now, it's just like, when Trump deals with China. What does he say? He says everything is on the table. Everything is on the table. So just like with charts, just like the direction we're going, everything is on the table. And when I mean everything, I mean 2 ideas, right? So right now, we have 2 options available. Breakout now, or come down, breakout later. But here's the cool part. If we do break down, then we can basically narrow it down to one idea, which is 3 down, right? So if this is 3 down, it'd be WXY, and then we can be extremely confident that it's going to happen. You could say, well, what if we come down here and that's the beginning of a bear market? That's also true, because there's, no matter how you slice it and dice it, there's always going to be 2 ideas, right? Even if you narrow it down to one idea, there's always going to be 2, right? There's always another possibility. So if we do come down in 3, we would look to go up. But if we get rejected right here, we get rejected and we start coming down and making another low, then you could say, okay, well, now we can look at, maybe we are starting a bear market here. So that's what I wanted to talk about today after 42 minutes. Damn. Is what that would look like. If we do it, let's talk about worst case scenario. We talked about what the bulls could look like, what the bullish thing can look like. But now let's talk about the bearish, right? But before I do that, I just wanted to give us a target real quick, because this does kind of look like it's flagging out a little bit, I wish it was a little bit more of a nicer looking flag. Like, I wish this low would have came down a little bit lower, so you can have a little bit more of a flag, or even a triangle like A, B, C, D, E, right? Kind of a triangle, we break out. But basically, if we look at a trend extension here, and if we do break out, where could we look to? Well, we would look to about $4.50. So it keeps coming back to the 450, 550 area. So 450 up to 550. So right in there, I think would be a solid thing, right? So don't get me wrong, there are some bearish things. Like, for example, the 88 chart. The 88 chart did exactly this, and then it kind of just kerplunked down, and it was lights out. But here's the problem with that. Because of where XRP hasn't went on a bull run in like 7-8 years, guys. So, we're still in this zone here. We haven't gone in full price discovery. So why would we just barely enter a bear market when we've been in a bear market for the last 7-8 years? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. That's why I don't believe it. That's why if we do crash and Bitcoin does go into a quote unquote bear market, you know what I think it's going to be? I think it's going to be a super cycle. And what this potential bear market people are referencing would be none other than a mid-cycle correction. Okay? So basically, what that means is you have a mid-cycle correction, kind of like this, but probably bigger, right? So you have a cycle, you have the mid-cycle, and then you have the other cycle. This was a super cycle, right? So XRP has not went into price discovery, right? It has this beautiful cup, this W shape, rise, crash, everything, the whole thing. It's got the biggest base in crypto history. The bigger the base, the higher in space. I mean, come on. So, but what if we do? What if you say no? What if we have, like the only way I could see a major bear market is if Trump goes head to head with the Federal Reserve and we start transitioning away from the central banking fiat currency debt enslavement system and go to a system with prosperity and a we the people system. This is not a people system. It's a fake, corrupt banking system that enslaves everyone, and it's just ridiculous. So we have to change it. We need gold, we need silver, we need crypto, we need real things to challenge the banking status. But anyways, I think that will happen. Trump will go head to head with the Fed, and during that carnage, we could see major capitulation in markets because markets are like, what's going on? Maybe it's a cyber attack, and then the Fed comes down and says, oh yeah, it wasn't us, we didn't do anything, it was just a cyber attack. That's what happened, right? They could blame some cracks in the financial system on something else, and then Trump can point the finger at the Fed, and then it's going to be a big battle, a big war, right? This war is not over yet. I mean, you can see all the lead up from his impeachment to the Russiagate stuff, to the assassination, to stealing the election, to Charlie Kirk, to all these things, right? It's a war. It's a war. It's an information war. It's a war on your mind. It's a war on your spirit. It's a war on your soul, basically. And and it's really a war of the financial system, and the thing that can free us all. Like if you look at a hardcore Trump supporter and some person in Antifa, I guarantee they could be best friends. You know how they could be best friends? Crypto. What brings people together? Similarities. What do we all have in common? Money. That's what we all, like if you look at any gang in Chicago, right? They're killing each other, right? I guarantee they would be best friends if they were both well off. If for example, let's say somebody gave them each 10 Bitcoin, I guarantee they'd be jumping up and down, singing Kumbaya, holding each other's hands, not even caring, because their whole lives would change, right? Obviously, that's how powerful money is. It can make you complete enemies, or it can make you best friends. But whatever, So if crypto can bring us together, if crypto is that secret sauce, I think it could be, right? Because we're just fighting each other. It's about politics, money, and all that. But if everyone had their situation better, I think we would have a lot less problems, right? But we don't. We live in a think about the struggle, right? Think about somebody living in Baltimore or the city in Chicago, and they're barely making enough money. Their rent's expensive. There's crime. I mean, think about that in type of environment, right? Now, think about having a transition away from that Federal Reserve note, and we have money that's backed by gold, and you can actually buy stuff with money, right? And it's actually worth something. And because we're making it in the United States and we're not just totally dependent on China anymore, right? This is a transition period. You have to work on the people's economy, the financial system. It's all about transitioning out of it. And, and that's what Trump's trying to do. He's trying to bring jobs back, manufacturing back, AI, crypto, be the hub for everything. AI, crypto, right? Finance. So, and this talks about DeFi too a lot, and referencing what we're talking about. So anyway, more on that later potentially. But here's the cool part. If we do go into a big bear market, let's say there's a big catastrophe, what would that look like for the price of XRP? Well, it would be very simple. Let me take everything off the screen, and I'm going to show you exactly what I think could play out as far as remove drawings. There we go. As far as what that could look like. So, well, right off the bat, if we have a major problem in the markets and Bitcoin kerplunks, right off the bat, I would imagine we would go right here. So anywhere in this zone, and I know it's a big zone, and I know it's probably not helpful, but I think it is. So that's between, let's see here. That's between, actually, I want to get it right. I want to get it right there. Okay, so that is between, let me throw some lines on here. Boom. 60 cents and $1.24 or $1.30. Well, we could say that, $1.30. There we go. So between 60 cents and $1.30. I know you can say, oh, that's a massive range. Well, look what happened. You know, we went straight up, guys. You know, as soon as we broke this, we went straight up. Look at this. As soon as we broke it, we went straight up. As soon as we broke it, we went straight up. So it's possible that this could be some kind of a problem in here, right? Where we have a 5-wave move down, and then we would kind of back test this area, fill in some of the gaps, and then we would go on and blast off. And let me see if I can make that a little bit more clear here. So just to give us a little bit of a look. So if we did end up coming down here, something like that, play around a little bit, but then eventually get out of there, right? And it would basically, what that would be is a second reaccumulation. So here's our first accumulation, or here's accumulation, here's reaccumulation, and then this is reaccumulation, right? So we would have 3 levels of reaccumulation, and you can see you would connect these lines in here, right? And then that's kind of what we would be looking at. And we would really hope to break out of that. All right? So that's basically how it would look, is essentially a crash. First, it wouldn't go straight to 60 cents. It would basically be right at $1.30. And let's see, let's take another level. And then I would say right at $1. So, and then the other one would be right there, and that would be at 72 cents. So those would be the levels, the holy grail levels to watch if this did have to come down. And it could be an expanded flat, right? It could be like 1, 2, 3. It'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A, B, C. And then we would just power up like this. And that would still be incredibly bullish. It would just be a massive expanded flat. And when you look at it, it actually looks like it's possible, right? It looks like the shape of it, the shape looks on par for how big this impulse is. You know what I mean? So let's measure that for a second. Let's take a trend-based extension. We're going to do this, and then we're going to do that, and then we're going to come all the way up to the top here. And would you look at that? The 1618 and the 1414 perfectly line up basically to that 85 cent dollar, around that dollar level right there. So let me just put that there, and let me put this, let me get rid of that one. Put that one right there, and let me just get rid of that. There we go. And then now we can get rid of that. Okay. So yeah, that expanded flat could totally be a 1618 extension, and then we go up like that. So we could literally go to $1. We could crash and capitulate down to $1.20 and still be okay. And that would be what? A mid-cycle correction, right? So it would just take, you know, it's like firing up a train from the 1800s. It's taking a lot of steam, and you're throwing the wood in there, and you're trying to get it going, and it just takes a lot of patience, right? So to summarize, here's my final thoughts. Number one, this is a 5-wave move, and we're working. We're gonna grind, maybe a little bit of a correction here, and then eventually break out. That would be the hope. That would be the prayer. That would be the ultimate thing. The second option would be that this is a flat and we still have a lot more to come down. I mean, not a lot, but a little bit. And then we break out. Okay? The third option is that this comes all the way down and we have a major sort of capitulation / bear markets. It could be the beginning of a Bitcoin bear market, but the end of like a theta or a SHIB or something that's been in a bear market for a while, like XRP, and then we go up. So no matter what, you can say, oh, it's up or down, it's up or down. No, it's up. I'm telling you, we're going up. We're going up. Ultimately, we're going up. Doesn't mean we're going up today or tomorrow or next week. It doesn't mean, we're going to go up straight from here, right? We have to finish whatever this is. Again, this could just break out easily, or we can come down here, then break out. But no matter what, in my opinion, we will win. We will break out. Without a doubt. Full conviction. So how many other guys, TA guys, can say that, right? I don't think so. But what if I'm totally wrong? XRP never breaks out. Then that would be crazy to me. That would be insane, right? Remember, the dollar, you know how easy this is, guys? People can't understand, well, how could you possibly say that? Because why? Because it's the dollar. The dollar's dying. The dollar is, the more money that we print, you can say, oh, we're not in QE, but we are in QE, really. We are. The government never stops printing money. The government's always borrowing money. They're always spending money. Money's going infinitely, right? So the more money is created, the more money, the more value. That's why people invest in the stock market, right? Because it's inflation. The dollar goes down, but the stock market goes up, right? And same with crypto. And especially XRP, giving it, to me, in my opinion, is the number one crypto on the planet in the top 10. In the top 10, right? You still have other, for its own reasons, for its payment reasons, right? I mean, you don't have to like just one, right? So remember, none of this is financial advice. I could be totally wrong and XRP can go to 5 cents tomorrow. But do you really believe that? I don't think so. So I think I laid out a pretty solid understanding of what I think is happening here. And remember, you can't deny the larger time frames is so bullish, like you don't even understand. It's insanely bullish. So if we just take this level right here, you can see that we're stuck in this level, right? We're stuck in, actually, I'm going to get rid of that one for a minute. You can see we're in this side of this range, and that's why it's taking so long, because we're filling in the gaps. We're filling in that volume profile between these two price ranges. And once it solidifies, and once it basically, the concrete dries, that's when we can hopefully head up, or if it's a flat, we come back down, then we head up. So it's really those two options. So anyways, there we go. That's it. So what about the super small time frames? Anything change on these? Well, it's definitely a lot nicer looking wave. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now it looks like a proper diag. So if this is a diagonal, what could we expect in the short term? Well, I'll show you right now. This could be, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And over the weekend, what we really want to see is a little bit of a three-way pullback and then a continuation. If we don't get that, and this keeps pumping and pumping, that's even better, right? And then we can get the three-way pullback a little bit further up. But the main thing that will get me super, super, super excited is if we can break above 317 especially 330. If we can get into that zone and break that zone, guys, this is the most important zone in crypto, in my opinion, right here. If we could break that zone, it would be epic. It would pretty much solidify everything. So anyways, what else could we look at? I mean, we just crossed the hour mark. If you can hit the like button, you know, psychologically speaking, if I go over an hour, most people, I mean, I would say a lot of people don't watch, but you don't have to watch the whole thing. I hope that you can watch as much as you can. But basically, it is essentially, enough information is not enough information. Let's just say that. So Monero had a little bit of a pop. And this is why I can't see the bear market argument so much, is because look, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. Until we have a lower low, then, I have to assume we're continuing to go up. So Monero still looks great. You had that pump, right? Monero is going to be one of those big ones because of the shape that it's printed. Let's see, can I find the original chart here? You could see it looks a lot like XRP. Now, if we zoom completely out, look at this. Look at that reaccumulation, guys. This is another reason why I don't think we're going into a bear market. I think Bitcoin could potentially have a mid-cycle correction or a consolidation phase, but I don't think we're going to go in a full-on bear market unless, obviously, we're still in a bear market, right? Monero is still in the bear market, just like everything else is still in the bear market. You can only go into a bull market if you go into price discovery or if you have like so many quarters of going up, right? So I guess you could say that was a bull market, that was a bear market. But anyway, you slice it and dice it. We haven't, the real thing isn't bull or bear, it's price discovery. It's the all-time high. That's a real bull market, right? And you could see Monero is very close to succeeding in that situation. So, because of the way it looks. So anyways, anything else in here that we could touch on real quick? XLM was looking good. Here's another one you definitely want to keep an eye on. I mean, look at this. Look at that shape. Look at those. Look at that W right there. So, awesome. But basically, the XLM is in a kind of a different spot because you have point A, point B. You're right in the middle here. So yes, it could go down, it could go up. But what I want you to take from it is, even if we do go down, 3 down, 3 up, even if this is 3 back down, something like that, or 5, then we would still have an ABC. It would still be very bullish. By the time we hit Q1 of next year, that's when we can explode to the upside. If it's going to be bearish now. If it's not, then this could literally break us out of here. So again, it's this or it's this. So it really comes down to, what we can see here in the these last 3 months. So I mean, look at this one. This one's knee deep in the bear market. I mean, if you look at this, you say, "Oh, we're barely starting a bear market." Well, we'll look at this coin. This coin's been in a bear market for a long time, since 2021. So how could we just be going into a bear market if we've been in a bear market the whole time? That's another problem, right? So this is definitely unlike any other cycle we've ever had, because some things are in bear, some things are in bull, some things are mixed, some things are, kind of normal. But all in all, if this, is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I would say right when we get there, that's when the bear market would essentially be about over with, and then we would start our recovery phase, kind of a little bit of a divergence, a little bit of a base, come up here a little bit, and then start working your way back to the upside, something like that, which is a long road to recovery. So either way, it's going to be a tough road. Now, if you look at something like SHIB, which I thought I had right, the full chart right here, right? I think SHIB looks really good as far because it has all of this support in here, right? You have this impulse, you have your bear market accumulation, you broke out, you back tested it once, you come up, you back test it again, you're building a base, it's in a three-wave formation, right? So to me, it just seems like it's got to come up, right? And if it doesn't, if it breaks down, then I would assume it's a spring phase, right? It'd be Wyckoff, you have your spring, then you go up. So I think, that's basically it, right? So, if you look at XRP market cap, now market cap is in price discovery. Market cap is in price discovery. It's actually above everything, right? So we're at $182 billion market cap, but basically the highest market cap we've ever seen, right? Especially when we look at, let's see, the 2-month chart. We had a 2-month close. I know we should be coming up on a 9 here. We already had a 9, but we have a green 2 going above a green 1. We just had the highest quarterly close in XRP history. We had the highest total 3 close in XRP history. That would be the final one we would look at. So total 3 here. Total, actually, yeah, we'll look at total 3. Yeah, so, it really comes down to, if this is a trap, and we have to come down, then I would look at that as a mid-cycle correction, basically a running flat, something like that, right? Or it could be nice, and because if you look at the 3-month chart, it actually looks very bullish. So if we take this off and we put this on right here, boom, and we actually go right there, you could see we've actually broken out, right? And then let's put one more. Right here, right there. There we go. Let's get rid of that one. So yeah, there we go. So yeah, we ran up to it, we came around, we hit it again, we came down, but now we finally busted through it. So basically the altcoins had the highest 3-month candle close in history, the highest quarterly candle close in history. But how could that be if it doesn't feel like it? Well, because it's basically most of XRP and most of Ethereum is really what's holding up the weight. Because if you look at a lot of other charts, they're all down at the lows down in here, right? So let's zoom in on here. So yeah, I mean we're right there, and that's the thing. Like, is this gonna bust us out of here, or is this going to be a flat, right? For example, like A, B, and a C, something like that. And that's kind of what I'm thinking here. If we do start to roll over and we start going down, then we have a flat here. If we completely go through, we have an ABC. If we completely get rejected here, then yes, you could say, okay, well now we're going into something a lot bigger. For example, like A, B, and then C, which would be another bear market equivalent to that, right? And then we would get this out of it. So anyways, I think that should do it for everything. Let's just see if there's anything that's sticking out on us. 9%. Oh, Zcash is up 9%. What's going on? Whoa, look at Mr. Z. Wow. That's only 9%? It looks like more than 9% to me. Obviously, just for the day. Yeah. Whoa, that's like a couple 100%. So Zcash had a big move then. Okay, so let's go to the daily then. What's going on here with Zcash? Wow. Damn, missed that one, huh? Look at that. Look at that. You see how it started off too? This is important. Notice how it started off, right? Come on. Why is it being a little turd? There you go. Look how it started off. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, right? It started off like kind of like a bear flag, right? But then it exploded like crazy. So if you look at the measurement here, wow, that's like 200%. That's a big move right there for Zcash. And why would if we're going into a bear market, why would we get something like that? That doesn't make sense to me. Look at this. You have an impulse to the upside and you have a 3-wave pullback, and that 3-wave pullback took 7 years, basically 7-8 year 3-wave pullback, right? So yes, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, and now we have a 1, 2, and this looks like it could be blasting off into the stratosphere very soon. So we'll see about that. Did we look at Bitcoin? Wow, Bitcoin's back above $120,000, and we have a bullish engulfing candle. Guys, welcome to Q4. So it is very, very interesting. We had the highest quarterly candle close. We had the highest 2-month close in history. We had the highest, if we close right now, this will be the highest monthly candle close in history. Obviously, the month just started, and I don't really like that. You know, I'd prefer it to happen sort of in the middle of the month, in the meat and potatoes of the month. If it happens in the beginning of the month, a lot of times it's the futures contracts ending or beginning, or filling in order blocks, or filling in liquidity, stuff like that. So, yeah, it looks awesome to me. So, but let's look at the smaller time frames. Look at that engulfing candle. You know, I hope it's, you know, it could be a trap. It could be a trap, but it also could be what we were just talking about. Not last video, but prior to that too, is what? Is this being 3 waves down? Look at this, guys. Look what we got. We got 3 waves up. So we have a 3-wave move, and we're about to go into the weekend. So all of October could be 3 waves down, right? Basically, basically a month and a half we could be going down, and then once November, December, and even Q1, that's when we start blasting off. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. So it always comes down to 2 ideas. Either we have an impulse, 3-wave pullback, and then a 1, 2, and now we're about to charge up, go, 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 go. Or we have 3 waves down, 3 waves up, and then we're going to get 3 waves back down, and then we go up. So which one's it going to be? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, because right now we're at point A, point B. We're right in the middle of point C. Anything can happen. So as we approach Saturday, Sunday, you know, I really would prefer it to not break out right now. I would really prefer Saturday, Sunday, we flag out, and then Monday, Tuesday, you know, a little bit sideways, but then Wednesday, Thursday of next week, blast off. That's what I would love to see happen. That would be awesome if we could get something like that. So anyways, I think that's pretty much it here. You know, don't get me wrong. This is not all sunshine and rainbows, and it's not all completely bullish. You know, we could see, like I said, some big moves to the downside. And if we do, yes, it could open up a bear market, because the worst thing about everything is the Bitcoin chart. Look how many waves we went up. We've been going literally 2023, all of 2023, all of 2024, all of 2025. We've been going up for 3 years straight. So it can't be sustainable. It's not going to be sustainable. At some point, this wave is going to end, right? It happens all the time. This wave came up, it ended. This wave came up, it ended. This wave came up, it ended. Now we have this wave going up. Eventually, this wave's going to end. Now the question is, when does it end? Well, it's, you know, we have a lot of waves in here. So, and we're getting bearish divergence. So, you know, things are starting to look a little bit, you know, a little bit concerning. You can start to see on the weekly, you got some bearish divergence here on the weekly chart. But that doesn't mean it's going to happen now, because if you go back, right, look how much bearish divergence we had over here, and we keep continue to go up, right? Or, for example, we had bearish divergence here, but then we still came up and made another high. So let's see. Let's look at the monthly here. So the monthly chart, so that's the cool part about it, is the monthly chart still has a lot more to go, right? You could see this downward resistance line. Actually, that line looks pretty good. If we look at a trend line here and we match it up, you could see we still have a little bit more to go. That's why I don't think it's completely done yet. I mean, just look at that. Does that look finished to you? Right? To me, it looks like it needs to go up one more time to hit that mark on the monthly chart. I think the monthly chart's more important. And if you look at the monthly MACD, oh my God, look at this son of a gun. This has not yet crossed over yet, right? So let's look at the 2-month chart. 2-month is amazing. Okay, let's look at the 2-week chart. Now, the 2-week chart, you're starting to get into a little bit of problems, right? Actually, let's get rid of that. Let's just use the MACD here. Yeah, so you're starting to get a little bit of a top, but it's not completely gone yet. Let's see here. You could start to see the blue line starting to come back above. That's good. All right, let's look at the weekly. Now, the weekly chart will probably be the worst one because it's the smaller time frame. But yeah, you got a little bit of divergence in there. But it's not too crazy. It's not too crazy. And it could be easily taken out, too, if this wants to go up. It actually looks good, though, honestly. And even on this time frame, you could even say that this right here is a running flat. What if that's the case? I never even thought about that. Let me zoom in on here and let me think about that. You know what? Oh, man. I didn't ever even... Okay, wait a minute. Stop. Red alert. Do. Back up. I never considered this because I was always looking at the smaller time frames. Oh, we have a lot to talk about, but I'm going to do it really fast. So, guys, I was looking at this as a 5-wave move, but what if the move ended here and this is a flat? So hear me out. Here we go. Ready? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Okay. And then we have 3 down. That's W. And then we have 1, 2, 3 up. That's X. And then we have 1, 2, 3 back down. That's Y. We have a running flat for a wave 2, which is probably the most bullish correction you can get. And this, my friends, we're going up into a wave 3, right? How do you know when we're bullish? When the most bullish people are starting to get bearish, right? So if bullish people that are always bullish are getting bearish, that's when you know we're bullish again. So, but yeah, look at that. That could be a flat here. I never considered that. Man, hopefully, if you made it this far in the video, you would know this. That's why, you got to watch the whole thing, but, it's such a long video. I know, I'm sorry, but we have a 1, and yeah, this could be a flat right here. 1, and that's a 2. And this is a 1, and this is a 2, and we're about to blast off in a wave 3. So we could have a very big bullish Friday and Saturday, if you want to know the damn truth. So I don't know, man. What do you think, guys? Because this looks like 1, this looks like 2, but that can't be 3 and 4 and 5. That doesn't even make sense at all, unless this is part of a bigger correction, right? This is a flat. This is a running flat. So there you go. So I will leave it at that. That's our grand finale here. Actually, I could go 1 and then 2, and then now we're going up 3, 4, and 5 right there. And let's put this up here. There we go. But we need, ladies and gentlemen, a target here. How can I give us? I'm just gonna do. I gotta hurry up. Let's see from here, and then we'll go. I'll say from here, and then we'll go down to here. Yeah, and the 1.6. Oh, look at that. The 1.618 comes right at $186,000. Perfection. Look at that. Not too bad. All right, we'll get rid of that. And then what we could do is take a W, X, and a Y, just like that. All right, there we go. All right, guys, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. This is also getting really exciting. I will catch you guys on the next one. Remember, not financial advice. And let's see what next week brings, and let's see how the weekly close ends, and let's see how far we can get in these retraced levels. And yeah, let's just see what happens. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.